Hello friends, it is time to talk about 18th century April. I am so excited. If you missed my video back in January about 18th century April, I'll link it in the description box so that you can go check that out, and I don't need to rehash all of the reasons that I want to do this and that kind of thing. But the gist is that I wanted to devote this year to doing 18th century literature, and I noticed that as far as I could tell, nobody's been doing an 18th century focused readathon. I know some people were doing a Georgian period readathon, which is most of the 18th century actually, and that might even just be an English, like American-British difference. But anyway, we're calling it the 18th century. It can be the long 18th century, so you can start in 1660 if you feel like, with the Restoration. That's cool. This is really a sort of very casual thing. So here are the kind of challenges and goals and how it's going to go. Basically, the challenge is in April to read a book that is from the 18th century. I wanted to make it really simple, mostly for myself, because April is going to be a really busy month for me, because that's basically the like last 4 weeks of the school year, or of the semester and the school year actually. And so I know I'm not going to have a ton of time to be doing a lot of extra reading, and I also just wanted to make it really low entry. I know that a lot of people are less familiar with 18th century fiction and other literature than they are if like the 19th century and early 20th century stuff. It feels a little scarier because it's older, the language is a little bit more challenging, although not actually that much more challenging than like Jane Austen, for example. But we just tend to kind of know a little less about the 18th century because it's older. And so I wanted to give us, as a community, the opportunity to kind of become more familiar with this period and to kind of do it together so that we can help each other out. Post stuff, our hashtag is really long. It's 18th century April. All of the words. Also, you can do 18C April, although that looks a little weird, but both of those are viable hashtags. I would love to see you guys' posts on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. And so, other than that, I thought I would give us a few fun optional challenges. These are maybe if you already have read a decent amount of 18th century fiction and you want to spread your wings a little bit, or you want to just like really go all in. April's going to be a great month for you to do a more complicated reading challenge, unlike me. And yeah, I like having challenges. I think they're fun. We're gonna have 4 challenges. You can do one of them, you can do none of them, and also they're like, you can kind of collapse them into 1 or 2 books if you really want to, and I designed them on purpose like that because again, I want to make this really easy and low-key and just fun. First, read a book by a woman. There are fewer books written by women, especially fiction, but I should maybe qualify that statement or correct that statement and say there are fewer really well-known books by women in the 18th century, but there were actually a lot of them. The novel genre in particular, women sort of entered very quickly and were like, hey, this is a thing we can do. And because it was seen as sort of like kind of literary, they were sort of like allowed to write novels and publish them, often anonymously. And so find a book written by a woman and read that. The next thing is to read something that's not a novel. I'm always trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and my comfort zone is definitely novels. And so, especially if you've read some 18th century novels, try something that's not a novel. Samuel Johnson's dictionary is something that was published in the 18th century. It's the first dictionary of the English language. It's kind of entertaining, actually, because he put some of his personality into his definitions. Or just like read the introduction. It's fine. James Boswell's Life of Johnson is another, like, it's a biography, an early biography. There's a lot of philosophy and like science writing, and this is the Enlightenment. The like peak of the Enlightenment is during this century, and there's so much nonfiction being written. A lot of poetry. You have Alexander Pope, and at the end of the century you have the early Romantics, and you have William Blake, and you have what's his face? Sir Walter Scott was writing poetry in the 18th century. Go forth and discover. I will be doing a TBR video with some recommendations, and also my earlier video has some recommendations. But honestly, one of the best ways to find literature, like if you're looking for, 18th century fiction by women, Google it, because there's lists all over the place, and I would rather just let you go do that by yourself. The next thing is to read a Gothic fiction book. I am really intrigued by Gothic fiction, and it got its start in the 18th century with this book, The Castle of Otranto, which, by the way, I can't reach, is quite short and sort of a fast read and kind of ridiculous, actually, but entertaining in its own way, and very interesting because it sets up a lot of the tropes for Gothic fiction. So if you're interested and you like, you know, Edgar Allan Poe and vampire stories and that kind of like paranormal stuff, this is where it started in the like English language, and that would definitely be something that would be worth picking up and just enjoying. I don't know if I'm actually going to get to this challenge, but hopefully I can do it. Finally, I thought we could do something active that would be fun, and something about the 18th century is that a lot of people encountered books aloud. So I would encourage you, this is the sort of like committed version of the challenge. There's a committed version, and then there's like a backdoor if you just don't want to work that hard, which is totally fine. I might actually end up doing the backdoor version. But the committed version is read a book out loud with somebody, or pick a poem or something and read it out loud in a space where you are with another person. Read to somebody, or have somebody read to you. That communal engagement with books is something that we've kind of lost in that way. Like, we still talk about books, but we don't read them together out loud as often as happened for a really long time, including in the 17th century. There just, you know, there weren't a ton of people who were literate, and the nights in England were long and dark in the winter, and if everybody could get together and one person read while, you know, the women sewed and the men fiddled with carvings or whatever, like, that was something that people were doing, and I think it would be interesting to just experience that and see what it's like to read a text out loud with somebody else. Get a group of people together, like, invite all your friends and read sections of, you know, your favorite 18th century books or something. Take that as far as you want to go. If you make videos or take pictures of yourself doing that and you get really creative or whatever, please tag me. I would love to know what you do with that. I probably won't do anything, again, enormously exciting, but we'll see what happens. The backdoor version, if you're like, that just sounds really complicated, or I don't know if I can have time for that, listen to an audiobook. That's sort of the modern equivalent, right? A lot of these classic works are available via audiobook, and you can absolutely just do that and call the challenge good. So those are the 4 challenges, but remember, all you have to do is just read something that was written in the 18th century to participate and call yourself a winner or whatever of this readathon. I would love to hear if you are planning to participate, and what you think of the challenges. If you have any kind of like ideas, or you're really excited about one of them, and look out for my TBR video a little bit closer to April, and there may or may not be, depending on how much time I have, some other stuff about the 18th century and literature coming out, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!